We're going to use for a subject today, we need a hero. We need a hero. If you would, find two or three people close to you and just let them know we need a hero. A hero is, as Merriam Webster Dictionary defines it, a mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability. A hero is an illustrious warrior. A person that is a hero is a person admired for achievements and noble qualities. A distinguished person of courage or ability admired for his or her bravery and the deeds of noble qualities. That's a hero. A hero is a person who, in the opinion of others, has heroic qualities or has performed a heroic act and is regarded as a model or ideal. Having played a superhero as an actor, Christopher Reeve is quoted as saying this: a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Debbie Mazar said a hero is somebody who is selfless, who is generous in spirit, who just tries to give back as much as possible and help people. A hero to me is someone who saves people and who really deeply cares. But I believe author Shannon A. Thompson sums it all up when she said heroes don't have the need to be known as heroes. They just do what heroes do because it is right and it must be done. What you'll find about heroes is this: heroes come in all shapes, all sizes, and all colors. Heroes become heroes in various ways. Many are thrust into it, whereas some are kind of born to be heroes. What we're going to see in today's story with David and Goliath is how David became a hero. Now, this is a story that transcends time. This story of David and Goliath, it transcends barriers. This is a story that never ever gets old. This story is used in inspiration in the boardroom. It's also used to inspire athletes in the locker room. This story is a story that I believe once we hear it from the perspective that God wants us to hear it from today, I believe we will find that there are many heroes in this room today. Somebody say we need a hero. Now, to set the stage, the Philistine army had declared and prepared to go to war against the Israelites. Knowing this, King Saul and the people of Israel gathered themselves in an effort to defend themselves from the imminent attack. It is then Goliath, who was considered one of the champions of the Philistines, who comes upon the scene and makes his appearance known. Now, in today's metrics, Goliath stood somewhere in the 8 to 10 foot range. The spear that Goliath carried was approximately 6 feet long, and the tip of that spear is said to have weighed anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds all by itself. Goliath weighed in on the scale somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 plus pounds. Goliath was a big dude, y'all. Goliath not only was a big dude, but he came with a big attitude. Goliath now commences to challenge the Israelites. He commences to talk about those that represented the Israeli army. He begins to come out to them, charging them and challenging them to come and do battle with him. The Bible states that when Saul and all of Israel heard these words of the Philistine, this Goliath, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Goliath was talking a whole lot of trash, not only about the people of Israel, but about the God that they served. Enter now David. David, who is a young man. David, who is supposed to be tending to the sheep of his father Jesse. David is sent by his father with bread to take to his brothers who are in this Israeli army, and they are also hiding like everybody else. David is charged by his father to not only take bread but cheese to the captain of this Israeli army, but the captain and his brothers and all of the other soldiers are hiding because they are afraid of this Goliath. This Goliath continues to taunt the Israelites. He continues to tell them what he's going to do to anybody that dares to stand up to him. And David hears what Goliath has to say. And when he hears what Goliath has to say, David then begins to leap into action. What we're going to find, and as we walk through these scriptures today, we're going to see certain qualities, 10 to be exact, that made David a hero. And I believe if you pay close attention, you're going to find that if you possess any of these qualities, you yourself are a hero as well. Let's look with me at verse number 26. 1 Samuel 17, verse 26 says, Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? The first quality that made David a hero is David confronted his fear. Remember now, everybody else is afraid of Goliath. Everybody else is hiding because of their fear, but yet David, on the other hand, wasn't afraid. David separates himself from everybody else because heroes, they may be scared like everybody else, but they confront their fears. When everybody else is running from trouble, David is running to trouble. When everybody else is afraid, heroes step up in the face of fear and do what is necessary. Heroes spring into action even though they may be scared themselves. And David is the only one willing to stand up to this Goliath. Look at verse 28. Verse 28 then says, Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's anger was aroused against David, and he said, Why did you come down here, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? People are always trying to put you in your place. He says, I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. Here's a warning for us. There are those that may be afraid, but they want you to be afraid like they are. There are those that always seem to be around that are too afraid to go out and launch a business, but when you get ready to start yours, they want to tell you how hard it's going to be. There are those that are too afraid to go back to school and get that degree or diploma, but yet when you want to go out and do it, they tell you that there's not enough financial aid. There's always somebody around that has fear to do something, but yet when you have the courage, they want to get fear in your heart. Don't let their fear stop you from what you know you can do with God. Somebody give God some praise for that. Just because they're scared doesn't mean you have to be scared. Look at verse 32. Verse 32 says, Then David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. Here we see the second quality that made David a hero, and that is this: David answered the call to act. David answered the call to act. David, if you will, is a first responder. David is the first one to want to respond to this giant problem. David is the one that wants to go into action while everybody else is hiding. That's why I always caution people to be careful about being critical of police officers and being critical of firefighters, because when trouble comes, you don't call a politician. When trouble comes, you don't call a political pundit. When trouble comes, you don't call a TV personality. When trouble comes, the first thing you do is you dial 911. And they are sworn to spring into action when trouble hits your situation. So you got to be careful about being critical of those that you don't know and you don't walk in their shoes. I've learned this. If you walk in somebody's shoes long enough, you'll learn that they do things that you never thought could be done. They do things that you aren't willing to do. So you got to be careful, because David was ready to spring into action when nobody else was. David says to Saul, then David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. The third quality that made David a hero is this: David has the heart of a servant. David has the heart of a servant. Heroes, they spring into action because that's what servants do. Heroes don't fight for themselves. Heroes fight for others. Heroes, they don't do it for the safety of their own sake. They do it for the safety of others. Most heroes, they swear an oath that they will defend and fight for others' belief and for others' safety. And yet, this is exactly what David says to the king. He says, your servant will go against this Philistine. And the reason why we are here today is we are here to say thank you, because as servants of the public, as servants in our communities, you do this every single day. You lay your life on the line. You give your lives so that we can feel safe when we lay our heads down at night. You give your lives so that we can feel safe when we're in the stores and when we're driving up and down the road. We want to say thank you, because you have been called to act and you live up to what you said you're willing to do. Watch what David says. He said, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. The fourth quality that made David a hero is this: David is ready to go and fight. It's one thing to answer the call to action. It's another thing to be ready when it's time to fight. There are those that talk about what they're going to do, but then there are those that act. There are those that say what they will do in certain situations, but those that are real heroes, they let their actions do all the talking for them. There are those that will always say what they might do, but what I love about heroes is in the face of trouble, like David, they are always ready to act. In the face of trouble, heroes step up and are ready to fight wherever the fight is. They don't run from it, they run to it, and that's exactly what David did here in this situation. Look at verse 33. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. The fifth quality that made David a hero is this: David doesn't allow the limitations of others to limit what God can do. You know, there's always going to be somebody around you telling you you're too young to do something. And then what's funny is when you get a little older, there's going to be somebody around you to tell you you're too old to do something. Then there's going to be somebody that tells you you don't have enough education to do something. And then there's going to be somebody around you to tell you don't have the money to do something. Somebody's always around to tell you what you don't qualify to do. But what I love about heroes is they know that in the face of a certain situation, I've been trained for this. I'm ready for this. And what we appreciate about David is he says to the king, it does not matter if you think I'm too young. I know I'm able to go against this giant, because guess what? Nobody else is stepping up to the plate. And what I appreciate about those that are here today is you step up to the plate day in and day out. You raise your hand and say, if somebody needs to be sent, send me. If somebody needs to go to the rescue, I'll be the one to do it. David does not allow the limitations of others to limit what God can do in his life. When others see a problem, they don't even try. But when you see a problem, you want to be the solution to the problem. When others are talking about what's wrong, you want to be the solution to make it right. And in my eyes, that's what a hero is all about. Watch what happens again in verse 34. But David said to Saul, Your servant used to keep his father's sheep. And when a lion or bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, watch verse 35, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck and killed it. The sixth quality that made David a hero is David had been prepared and tested. David was prepared and tested. It's funny how you can feel like you're not ready for a certain situation until that situation arises. It's when the situation arises that you remember how the past experiences that you've had prepared you for the very thing that you're dealing with in that moment. You start to remember how you were tested in this and prepared by way of that. You begin to remember all the things that you have been through that have laid the groundwork for how you're ready to respond in a certain given situation. When everyone else is nervous, you find yourself ready to do what needs to be done. Whether you believe it or not, you are tested and you are prepared for the troubles that may come up. And God says, I've done that so that when trouble arises, you aren't flaunted. You are flustered. Look at verse 36. He again says, your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. The seventh quality that made David a hero is David has confidence in himself. We need heroes, and heroes have to have confidence in themselves. We need heroes that when the situation calls for it, they're confident in their training and in their abilities. We need heroes that when the situation arises, they can change any situation from bad to good. We need heroes that when the occasion calls for it, they can rise up and they can be the solution to whatever the problem is. Are there any heroes in here today? If you believe you're a hero, give God some praise in this place. But watch this, verse 37 again. Verse 37 says, moreover, David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. The eighth quality that made David a hero is David had confidence in God. David teaches us something here about what to do before you face any challenge. Before David even faces the giant Goliath, David expresses the confidence that he has in God. Before David sets foot on the battlefield, David declares that he will win because he has God fighting for him and with him. And for many of us, before we go out to battle, we should do what David did. Are you confident enough in God that no matter what comes your way, you already know the victory is already yours? How many of us, before the war begins, can confidently say, I have already won? Look at this. How many of us are unafraid to say before you even fight that I'm going to win this fight because God is fighting with me? I'm looking for maybe 20 or 25 radical people willing to get on your feet and start declaring that I've already won my fight. I've already won my battle. I'm looking for 20 or 25 people to get on your feet and say the battle I'm about to fight, I'm already going to win because I got God fighting on my side. I dare you to find 3 people and let them know that if the Lord is fighting with me, I win. Let them know if the Lord's fighting with me, I have already won the battle. My Bible says no weapon formed against me shall prosper. My Bible says that when the enemy comes at me like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will raise up a standard against them. Yep, that means I win too. The Bible says in Deuteronomy 28 verse 7, don't miss this, that the enemy will come at you one way, but when God gets done with them, he's going to flee from you 7 ways. That means I've got the victory. So I got confidence that no matter who comes at me, they not only got to fight me, they got to fight the God that's with me. And if you mess with me and I got God on my side, you are going to lose. Give God some praise if you know that God is fighting for you. Watch this. Watch this. Verse 37. Verse 37 says, and Saul said to David, Go, and the Lord be with you. Go, and the Lord be with you. I'm here to say to somebody what King Saul said to David. He said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Don't miss that. Go, because when you go out there, you're going to face some danger. But don't go by yourself. Just know that the Lord's going to be with you. Go, because fear may be holding some other people back, but if you go in faith, God says favor's going to go with you. My protection's going to go with you. If you go with God, God says, not only am I going to make sure that you get home safely, but I'm going to make sure that you're blessed along the way. Somebody say go. He says go and handle your business, because the Lord is going to go with you, and if the Lord is going with you, your business will get done. Go. Somebody say go. Go, because you're going to find out what God is capable of, but then you're also going to find out what you're capable of. Somebody say go. Go, because when you go, somebody is in need of a hero, and when you show up, I'm going to move so much so in you that you will be the hero that they need for their situation. Somebody say go. Saul says to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Do know every time you strap up, God is strapping up with you. Every time you get in that vehicle to go out on a rescue call, you're not going by yourself. God is going with you. Every time you answer the call, God is answering the call with you. Every time you're searching and rescuing, God is searching and rescuing with you. Every time you handle a county situation, God is handling that county situation with you. You are not by yourself, and that's worthy of giving God a praise. Verse 38 says, so Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put on a bronze helmet on his head, and he clothed him with a coat of mail. Now, a coat of mail is like a bulletproof vest back then, but it was made of heavy metal woven together, and it was real heavy. And this coat of mail was put on David from King Saul. But watch verse 39. David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. The ninth quality that made David a hero was this: David doesn't go into battle with someone else's armor. David doesn't go into battle with someone else's armor. Too often we make the mistake of going into battles with somebody else's faith. I know you love your mama, I know you love your daddy, but you can't fight with their faith. You got to go into your own fight with your own faith. You got to have the courage to say, Mama, I know you love me. Daddy, I know you care about me, but I've got to fight this battle not with your faith, but I got to fight it with my own faith. I know your friends are cool with you, but you got to know that you can't fight with your friend's faith. You got to fight with your own faith. I know you got some folks that are in your prayer circle, but everybody in your prayer circle can't fight your fight for you. You've got to fight your fight with your faith. The Word of God says that He gives each of us a measure of faith. That means He gives you enough faith in you to handle whatever problem you're going to go through, but you've got to be willing to fight with your own faith. Which leads us to verse number 40 that says, then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. The 10th and final quality that made David a hero was this: David uses the tools he already had. David uses the tools he already had. Allow me, if you will, to read this verse again and pay particular attention to certain words of significance. It says, then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones. He didn't ask anybody else to pick them. He picked them himself from the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had. And his sling was in his hand. David does something that we all can learn from. David rejects the king's tools and chooses to use the tools he already had. God wants somebody to know today that you already have everything you need to be victorious in your battle. You have everything you need to be successful already. You already have everything you need to be a hero. And I hate to spoil it for somebody in here today, but if you don't know the end of this story, David does win. I hate to spoil it for you, but I need to let you know that if you ever go back and read the story, you're going to find that David defeats Goliath. David has victory over the enemy. I'm going to try and close, but I want to share with you that although we're here to say thank you to our county officials from Henry County and our firefighters and police officers from Henry County, Spalding County, and Clayton County, although we're here to celebrate them and thank them for their service and all that they do, the K-9 Rescue Unit, although we're here to recognize them and we see them and the public sees them as heroes, I would like to submit today that there are some of you that they aren't the only heroes that are in this place right now. I'd like to recognize the single mother that's raising her children, raising them to be kings and queens. You, ma'am, are a hero too. I'd like to say thank you to the father that goes out and works sometimes 2 or 3 jobs just to make sure he can take care of his family. You, sir, are a hero too. I'd like to submit to you that there's somebody that's been fighting cancer and you've been fighting the good fight, and yet you're still here. You are a hero as well. I'd like to submit that there are heroes amongst our midst, and they don't wear a uniform, but they get up every single day and they do something for somebody else instead of themselves. You are a hero as well. I'd like to thank those that have served in the military. You are a hero too. I'd like to thank those that serve in our communities. You are a hero too. Instead of talking about the problems that ail our communities, you want to be part of the solution. And to me, that makes you a hero just like everybody else. There are more than just those wearing uniforms. There are heroes, and we all need to be thankful for our heroes. So let's give God some praise for all of our heroes. Like David, you've answered the call to action. Like David, you're willing to do something for the benefit and well-being of somebody else. Like David, you have a servant's heart. And as long as you possess those qualities, you are a hero. And this world needs more heroes. This world needs people willing to be the solution and not add to the problem. I don't know about you, but we need more heroes. We need more heroes in this world. And you are a hero too. Let's give God some praise.